no charge for this antibiotic testing as well.
It's intended to encourage all of you to come and get tested. So what it does for our public health is that the swab test was predominantly testing people with symptoms. And it turns out that people with symptoms are a smaller segment of the people who actually got infected. And so what this does is it gives us a better idea of what the true prevalence of the disease is in the community. In July and August, we had a lot of what we call the millennials out there doing parties and things during summer break. And very few of them actually got sick, but they spread the infection through all of their friends and themselves, and they brought it home and transmitted it to older people. So it's really important that you know what your status is, and the public health authorities can then get a better idea of what the prevalence of disease is in that community, and they can intervene.
The testing will be at our district office on 43rd and Central. Individuals are encouraged to sign up in advance, and they may do so at guardaheart.org, or they may call 866-299-8998.
A new drive-in movie experience is coming to the LA Zoo. Catch the Ford Theater's new virtual season, and the 3rd annual Real Abilities Film Fest goes online. All this up next on Virtual Things to Do.
The LA Zoo is proud to present their first ever drive-in movie series. This drive-in event will feature cool themes, tasty movie theater fare, available through mobile ordering, trivia challenges, and more. The evening will include a special pre-show video presentation with the zoo's biggest animal stars. This wildly wonderful nighttime experience offers safe, physically distanced fun for all ages and is produced in accordance with county and state health and safety guidelines. Films being screened will include Zootopia, The Lorax, Goosebumps, and more. LA Zoo drive-in movies dominate their screens for 3 consecutive weekends, beginning Friday, October 16th, and runs through November 1st. Tickets are expected to sell out quickly, so get your tickets now. Visit lazoo.org/movies. The Ford Theater is going virtual this season with a series of free events now through December 8th. The Ford State of LA series features conversations with culture makers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in LA's art scene. From world-class dance performances to in-depth discussions and spectacular live music, most of the events can be streamed on Facebook and YouTube. Enjoy all the spoils of the Ford's digital season online through December 8th. Visit theford.com and dive into a massive collection of eclectic art. Real Abilities Film Festival Los Angeles 2020 is a 3-day online festival that showcases new and classic films, conversations, and artistic programs, and that explores, embraces, and celebrates the diversity of our shared human experience. All films are presented with full audio description and closed captioning. Don't miss Real Abilities' 3rd Annual Film Festival, streaming October 16th through the 18th. For ticket information, check out their listing on Eventbrite. And that's a look at some virtual things to do.
That's it for this edition. I'm Natalia Bilbao. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next time for more LA This Week.
Tragedy strikes, it's okay not to be okay.
I know this is tough, but we'll get through it.
We've still got more to come if we're not careful. Los Angeles, city of the angels. We're all in for LA. That's the only way we're gonna beat this thing. Thank you, Los Angeles. We love you.
Giving your child a strong start begins the moment they're born.
Talk with them.
Read with them.
Sing and count with them.
Talking, reading, singing, and counting to your child are simple ways you can bond with them, help strengthen their brains and bodies, and protect their health. Your voice, your hugs, your love build resilience and protect against the harmful effects of stress. So as California's Surgeon General, this is my prescription.
Talk, read, sing.
Go to first5california.com.
The autograph book of it.
President of the City Council, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, present.
Bonin.
Bonin, present.
Buscaino.
Here.
Cedillo.
Deal here.
Harris Dawson.
Here.
Koretz.
Present.
Krikorian.
Here.
Lee.
Present.
Martinez.
Present.
O'Farrell.
Present.
Price.
Present.
Rodriguez. Here. Rue.
Present.
Wesson.
Here.
14 members and a quorum, Madam President.
First order of business.
Approval the minutes of October 13, 2020.
Ms. Rodriguez moves and Mr. Buscaino seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Cedillo moves and Mr. Krikorian seconds. Next.
Madam President, would council like all items to go forthwith today?
Without objection, that would be the order. Next.
Items 1 through 16 are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 17 through 19 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. There is a request to hold items 9 and 10 on the desk.
Without objection, those items are now before us. Members, are there any specials on Mr. Harris Dawson?
Yes, I have, I'm calling number 18A special. Should I read the moving clause now?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
For an amendment? Okay. I move that the matter of the motion Harris Dawson Bonin relative to funding any aspect of the Summer Jazz Concert, virtual holiday tree lighting, virtual holiday toy drive, Turkey Drive, MLK Freedom Festival, and Our Pride events. Item number 18 on today's council agenda be amended to reduce the allocation for the MLK Freedom Festival by $10,000 and to increase the allocation amount for the Turkey Drive by $10,000.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Mr. Buscaino. Any others, Mr. Harris Dawson?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Madam President. On item number 8, I'd just like to make a brief amendment asking for an additional instruction, and that instruction would be to ask the Department of City Planning to report back on a range of strategies, including community plan updates, adjustments to the housing element that could achieve the same ends as otherwise outlined in the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it and I'll accept it as a friendly.
Thank you, Mr. Root.
Okay, Mr. Rue has seconded that. Members, any others? Any other specials? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, which are the available items we can go ahead and vote on?
Madam President, that would be items 1 through 7 and 11 through 16.
Okay, members, let's go ahead and prepare to vote on items 1 through 7 and 11 through 16. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think Mr. Bonin's amendment for report back is substantial, requiring reopening public comment, so we can vote on that too when you're...
Item number 8?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on item 1 through 8 and items 11 through 16. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Actually, Madam President, 1 through 7, 11 through 16, since 8 is amendment, it needs to be a separate vote. So can the council take one vote, items 1 through 7, 11 through 16 now, and the next vote shall be item 8.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Rue,
Aye.
Wesson.
Aye.
14 ayes, these items are adopted.
Next, Madam President, would be a vote on item 8 as amended.
Can I go ahead and prepare to vote on item number 8 as amended? Go ahead and call the roll.
Blumenfield,
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin,
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino,
Aye.
Cedillo,
Dio, aye.
Harris Dawson,
Yes.
Koretz,
Yes.
Krikorian,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Rue,
Aye.
Wesson.
Aye.
14 ayes, this item is adopted as amended.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and move into public comment. Go ahead, Madam Clerk, and read out the call-in information, followed by our city attorney.
Thank you, Madam President. As indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call area code 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and then press the pound key. Then press pound again when prompted for participant ID number. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. Again, the phone number is 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and press the pound key. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. And once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
To members of the public calling in, when it's your turn to speak, please state which of the agenda items you'd like to speak on. You have 1 minute per item to speak, up to 3 minutes total, and if you wish, 1 minute for general public comment. Please speak on the items before providing general public comment. We'll tell you when your time's up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we can't tell whether you're speaking on topic, you'll get one brief warning from me or the president. If you do not immediately get clearly on topic or again stray off topic, the president will cut you off and you'll forfeit the rest of your speaking time and we'll move on to the next speaker. We'll take 40 minutes total of public comment. The only items that are open for public comment today are items 17, 18, and 19. Finally, for members of the public calling in to speak, we're going to move you all into the meeting at once. You'll all be muted. When somebody announces the last 4 digits of your phone number or other identifying information, please press *6 immediately to unmute yourself, and then you can tell us which items you want to speak on. We'll tell you how many minutes you have, and you can begin. We understand you may be listening on a computer or other device. Please keep one ear on the phone because there's a slight time delay so that when you state your identifying information, you're able to unmute yourself as quickly as possible. Please also then turn down the volume on your other devices so that we don't have any feedback or time delays. Thank you very much, and we're ready for public comment.
Let's go ahead and take the first speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 6068, please press *6. Caller with the phone number ending in 6068, please press *6. Caller with the phone number ending in 6068, please press *6. Caller with the phone number ending in 2616, please press *6. Caller with the phone number ending in 2616, please press *6. Please state your name and the item you would like to speak on.
Hi, it's Eric Previn from Studio City, and I'll speak on all items in a general public comment. For starters, I was just in a void for several minutes, and I couldn't hear any of the other speakers or the call-in information, which is super weird, and it almost made me hang up, but I stayed with it. Conflict of interest, FPPC item is of interest, and also I know Martinez is looking at your own conflict of interest policies in the Rules Committee. I would say that this is a very complicated area for residents and their city officials. You know, there's all sorts of perceived conflict of interest that should be recused or simply not permitted, like David Rue's ban on developers. That was a bad idea, of course, but you could see why you wouldn't want people like Harvard-Westlake trustees flying Krikorian with major contributions, like $20,000 in a weekend, to get him to do what they want, because that looks bad. And they don't even disclose that they're with it, so that's bad. Or you wouldn't want like a guy like Englander taking dozens of
Mr.
contributions
Previn,
from TASER officials.
Mr. Previn,
when there's
I'm at
a
a
pending
loss
agreement.
as to which items you're
There's a conflict
speaking
of
on.
interest, Bobble.
Would you please
For
tell us
God's
whether you're
sake,
speaking
man.
on items 16, 17, or 18, please? Or excuse
Well,
me,
that's what I'm
17,
doing.
18, or
Wait,
19?
are the conflict of interest items not among those numbered?
So, Mr. Previn,
Did I get that wrong? Yeah.
So, could we hold Mr. Previn's time?
All right,
for
let's
just
talk
a
about
moment?
let's talk about the John Anson Ford.
So we're
okay?
holding your time,
Are we
Mr.
on
Previn,
safe territory
so that I
there?
can
Yeah.
explain this to you for a moment.
John Anson Ford is
The
a
items that
trail.
are open for public comment are 17, 18, or 19. I'm unable to tell what you were talking about. Would you please make clear which item you're speaking to and speak on those items? Madam Clerk, would you please restart his time now that it's clearer for him?
Yeah, this has been can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Well, John Anson Ford is a little park in Rouge District, possibly O'Farrell's, but it's right opposite the Hollywood Bowl. And we like to call it the Zev Anson Ford because during the 3rd District tenure of that supervisor, a lot of money was bundled up from the Parks and Rec Parks District at the county, and they needed a place to roll it into their own self-interest and sort of fundraising schema. And what they decided to do is upgrade that amphitheater, which is quite lovely, but it is nestled next to the 101, so it's a teeny bit noisy, and that's why they were able to justify spending so much money upgrading the offices. And here we had an example of pension spiking, where Zev was quietly trying to jack up Laura Zucker's pension in a back room during a Brown Act violation, which unfortunately I caught them at. And Fauble, the other one that I'd like to talk about in the 17, 18, 19 section, which is absurd, is first of all, Adam Schiff's Rim of the Valley. Certainly, that's an unpleasant name, but what we want is clear, open paths and places to be. What we don't want is diversion of any funding at this time to land grabs by the prevailing kind of group. That is happening all over the place. Rue, who does not take money from developers, likes to give money to developers and basically galvanized a plan to buy property in his district so that a crazy developer wouldn't build something ugly.
Mr. Previn,
near,
once again, I am perplexed as to which item you're speaking on. If you're
well, you don't have the same capacity that I do, sir. I'm talking about the rim of the valley. If you don't understand what the rim of the valley is, perhaps you need to dig a little deeper into the text. This is a project where Prop K money is being diverted in order to support a very nice rim of Adam Schiff in the valley. And we don't know exactly the details because I couldn't see the map on my phone. But I did look at it. And I disagree that you should be editing my remarks while I write my essay as a kind of an oral report. It's totally inappropriate. And I demand that my general public comment begin now.
Okay, fine. And let me just hold the comment.
No. Please, no more comments from you, sir. This is so inappropriate. We're really upset. We're all very upset.
Mr. Previn, I had asked you twice a simple question to make clear what you were speaking
I did.
on. And I didn't understand
and you don't want to. Well, but you don't read all the items. Let's not do this, sir. We're going to be embarrassed in front of our constituents. Just let me get to my general public comment.
Go ahead.
Which is that you should not be meddling at all, sir. You should be seated quietly with your mask on, or if you feel that you're far enough away from Martinez like she does, even though her employees are sitting on her lap, not wear a mask. Fine. But do not interrupt the public speakers. That is a complete no-no. Okay, that's how I feel. And I also feel that nixing Friday's public meeting is just an opportunity to deny input from the public, which I know you think is trivial because you're busy batting them away at every possible turn. Why you have people, for example, on today's agenda, who are being appointed to various commissions, and yet somehow in your own minds, you've already heard, so you're not going to take a word. This is an opportunity before Marquise Harris Dawson votes, before, Kern Price votes. If he recuses himself or not, we're going to find out after the meeting. The FPPC wanted parcel numbers attached, and they want to know exactly what's going on, but it doesn't cover. You still don't have to disclose.
Thank you, Mr. Previn.
That you're working for a lobbyist if you're married to him.
Next caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 2762, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Yes, my name is Michelle. I'd like to speak on items 10 and general public comment.
So we actually held the hearing from item 10, but you're perfectly free to talk about it as part of your general public comment if you want. So you have a minute.
Well, I was a little confused because I heard that at the beginning, and I thought, what? That was supposed to be on the record for today. But I'm calling because I am a volunteer crisis responder, and I know the importance of the City Council implementing alternatives to police, and that this should not be a limited pilot program, that we need you to fully fund alternatives and fully implement unarmed responses. Additionally, law enforcement should have absolutely nothing to do with this program. Alternatives to police will only succeed if it's properly funded and available in every single Los Angeles neighborhood. Properly fund alternatives to police response by defunding our very inept, hugely ballooned, and aptly ineffective police department. Seeing public posts today about police officers sweeping just shows how ineffective the use of this department is in Los Angeles.
Thank you, Speaker.
Next caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 7006, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Oh, the fucking item. 17, 18, and fucking 19.
Which items would you like to speak on?
Comment.
Which items are you speaking on, Speaker?
Well, I want to speak on 17, 18, and fucking 19, and fucking general fucking comment.
You have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin now.
Oh, that's good. Yes, so let's go. Look at item 19. John Anson Ford Nigger Theater. No on 19. They charge too much for parking. I went to one of those motherfucking concerts. It was a dissertation entitled The KKK and Herb Wesson's Move to the Valley, and they charged me $30 to park to go to that fucking theater with a little tiny parking lot up the 101. Fuck John Anson Ford. Fuck the trustees, and fuck you, no $1 million for any of you. Just shut that thing down, make it a homeless encampment so you could put those little pallet box houses there, and blah, bleeb and bleal degrees. Now we get 18 holidays. Where's the holidays for the fucking Jews on number 18? You got MLK, you got the turkey, which Mitchell Farrell wants to get rid of Thanksgiving because he says that's a racist holiday. Then you got Christmas. What about Chanukah? Fucking Chanukah? Where the fuck is Chanukah? Where's Kwanzaa? That's all we're doing is making only money to donate to these fucking goyim? Fuck them. And then we get CD 13 and number 17. Now, see, I didn't do what Eric Previn did. See, I stick to the numbers. Now, number 17 is a piece of fucking shit. Look at that. How they're going and doing a project in the middle of COVID? Nobody knows what's going on with that project. Tearing up streets, asking for exemptions, more exemptions. Now, the good news is that we know from the record that Mitchell Farrell wants to move to San Francisco. Now, all we got to do is get number 17 to hold off on number 17, and let's get Mitchell Farrell the best first-class flight to San Francisco one way and get rid of that motherfucker out of our lives. Then we can get rid of number 17. And then, of course, where's our new council clown? Where's the CD14 jackass? Where's he today? How come he's not talking about item 17? Really? Really, De Leon, you're not going to talk about number 17? Look at all that money they're stealing in CD13. He's got money from number 19 and number 17. Where's the money for CD14? Now I'm going to go into my general comment, if I may. Can I go into my general public comment?
Yes.
Or is Fable busy sucking a cock behind that screen there? Okay, so now, no on Herb Wesson! No. Vote for Holly Mitchell for the Board of Supervisors. No on Mark Ridley Monkey Thomas. Yes for Grace Yu in CD10. That way we can take and put Mark Ridley Thomas, Herb Wesson, Fabian, and the drug addict fucking cocksucker Douglas on a bus and send their asses back to Cleveland where they belong. It's your chance, voters. It's your chance. Now, to the shock of everybody, I'm endorsing David Rue for re-election. Why? Because he opened up my pavilions, and I went there last night and I shopped there in a beautiful new store. His opponent, Nathan Nippian, is a fucking cunt.
Wow.
Caller with the phone number ending in 7960, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Good morning, honorable council members. My name is Carlos Leon, organizer at Community Coalition. I would like to speak on items 9, 10, and provide general comment.
So you have a minute. Please go ahead.
Thank you. For items 9 and 10, it's great to see this in the agenda and see it moving forward. They definitely reflect a lot of what residents in South LA have requested and asked for many times for policies that focus on the root causes and expand resources and alternatives to incarceration and punishment, like the therapeutic ban pilot program, as well as the NARM model prices. This is moving in the right direction. What we are asking for today is for the City Council member, Herb Wesson, to set a date for the motion that removes LAPD from traffic stops and directs LA Dodge to develop an alternative model, which was introduced by Councilmember Harris Dawson and Bonin earlier this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 8105, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Freddie Escobar, General Public, item 9.
So you have a minute. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam President and honorable council members. My name is Freddie Escobar, and I'm proud to serve as president of the United Firefighters of Los Angeles City, Local 112. I'm speaking this AM on general public on item 9. Let me start by saying thank you to all of you. Thank you to every member on the city council for your ongoing support of our LAFD firefighters. The men and women of the LAFD are out there every single day in your council district responding to more emergencies than ever before. From structure fires to medical emergencies to coronavirus, we respond, and our firefighters are grateful to know that they have your support. I want to speak briefly about the therapeutic van pilot program that is being discussed today. First, it's important to remember that LAFD firefighters and paramedics deal with homeless, mental illness, and addiction issues in Los Angeles probably more than just about anybody else in the city of Los Angeles. We have compassion for our homeless and those with mental illness. We work with them every single day. That's why we want to see a partnership with the city and the county work. Our members have great deals at stake here, but we have concerns about the proposal that we have been hearing about. Our main concern is the proposal to operate this pilot program out of the LAFD fire stations, which are very secure, structured environments. As a firefighter with the LAFD for more than 30 years and a captain who still works at the fire stations in the city of Los Angeles, I have concerns and questions, including how will the city work with the county? What is the accountability and chain of command? What about liability and security? How will the 12-hour schedules of the county employees be compatible with the schedule of our firefighters? How will the pilot program at just 5 locations cover the entire city of Los Angeles?
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Sorry to cut you off. Let's move on to the next speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 5137, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Jamie Penn. I'm the resident representative for the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council, Subdistrict 3. I also volunteer for Koreatown for All, and I'd like to make a general public comment.
Great, please go ahead. You have a minute.
All right, as a point of information, I just spent my free time this morning, right before public comment, providing frozen water to my unhoused neighbors. My general public comment is as follows. Our problem is still that we do not have the resources needed to solve the problems that our community is facing. And I commend the fact that number 10 is finally on the agenda, but we have been demanding this for 9 months. And yet you decided today not to mark it special. I do want to personally commend Herb Wesson. Despite my many complaints, we're dialoguing with the community. He has personally shown me the most consideration. And from my point of view, he's one of the most willing to listen to us as constituents. Let me make it clear that the alternative will not succeed unless they are properly funded and available in every single neighborhood. And that's non-negotiable. We need this everywhere and responding to all types of emergencies, from wound care to relationship conflict to youth suicide, mental health crisis, and so on. And if you properly fund these alternatives to police by offloading the responsibility and diverting the police funds.
I think we've lost the speaker, but the time was out anyway.
No time for a report.
Speaker, we're having a hard time hearing you. Are you still there? I think we lost him. Let's go ahead and move on to the next speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1148, please press star 6. Caller with the, please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi, it's actually 1108. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
1148.
Yes, we can hear you. What items do you want to speak on? Caller?
If it's 1108.
Yes, go ahead. Caller, are you there?
Speaker, it's your turn. If you can hear us, please tell us what you'd like to speak on. I think we've lost the speaker. Our apologies.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1148, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
I would like to speak on all available items and general public comment, please.
So you have 3 minutes for the items 6, 17, 18, 19, and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin.
You said 16 also, sir?
No, that was a mistake. I meant 17 to 19. Thank you for correcting me.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, all. Good morning, my fellow Angelino. First, I'd like to say to Ms. Martinez, apologize to Miss Autry. Apologize. You can do it. You can be a big person. Apologize to Miss Autry. 17, 18, and 19 in general, public, on any item, if you are looking for a no vote from this Los Angeles sleazy council, you are in for a rude awakening. The LA City Council vote trades. 100% of their votes are yes votes. So ask yourself, why do they show up? Number 17 will be a yes vote. Number 18 will be a yes vote. Number 19 will be a yes vote, just like all the other items they voted on today, yesterday, the week before, the week before, the week before that, under Eric Garcetti and corrupt, criminally insane, king of homelessness, Herb Wesson's vote trading system.
So, Speaker, sorry to interrupt you. Could you speak more directly about the substance of 17, 18, 19?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you.
I am speaking to those subjects directly. Please don't thought police me. But number 17, this is another project. Doesn't say how much it's going to cost. More corruption. Just like yesterday's vote on a $555,000 per unit. Doesn't say how much per square foot, with HHH funds that's been blown while the homeless die on the street in Herb Wesson's king of homelessness since he was on the city council president system. Voting for him for the city board of supervisors is suicide. Dawson, yeah, that's right. Fund a jazz festival. That's what's important. Number 19, shortfall in the funding for the Ford Anson Theater. For all shortfalls, including these furloughs, why don't you take the money from Dawson's $1.3 million that this corrupt council has given him for his luxury offices? $1.3 million. Am I into my general public comment now, sir?
You have a yes, actually. Yes, indeed.
Oh, okay. Starting now?
Yes, please.
Okay. This corrupt Los Angeles City Council has given Dawson, sleazy Marquise Dawson is what he's called in the black community, $488,000 in the last 18 months. $305,000 in the last 18 months. And they're about to vote. They put off the vote yesterday for another $541,000 for Dawson's luxury offices. He wants another luxury office move onto Crenshaw Boulevard. Funny, the Shell Corporation they've just set up was just set up last month on September 23rd. For him to do a contract with this company. Well, the FBI will be getting those documents. Letters are already gone to the community, from the community. Take the money, any shortfall from the police, the $3 billion. I hear nothing of Melina Abdullah's ordeal with the police. I hear
Can we just move on to the next caller?
in the middle of a pandemic, giving this guy luxury off.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. O'Farrell?
just before the next caller, if you don't mind, I would just like to clarify something. Item 17 has been brought up a number of times already by callers. Just to clarify what item 17 on our agenda today is, it's approval of 136 100% affordable housing units being built on currently unoccupied space with no displacement of any tenants, businesses, or residents. And it is through the Sustainable Communities Project exemption process, building 100% affordable housing that we desperately need across the city. Just for clarification to some of the callers who have commented on this so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Let's move on to the next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 3136, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hey, can people hear me?
Yes, we can.
So we can hear you. What items do you want to speak on?
Awesome. Hey, how's it going, people? My name is David Turner. I am the manager of the Brother Son Sales Coalition. I would like to speak on items 9 and 10.
Okay, you have a minute for those items in general public comment. Please go ahead, speaker.
All right. First of all, definitely want to thank Councilmember Herb Wesson for actually making sure that these items are even introducing these items. Right? I think it's important that we do have these alternatives for public safety because they are important for our city. What I would definitely want to encourage, is not only that we continue to have and continue the conversation around items 9 and 10. I know these items were held for this meeting, but also too, that we include the motion that was put forth, by Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson, Councilmember Bonin, and others, to remove LAPD from traffic stops. I think it is absolutely important, especially in this current political moment, that we continue to push forward this idea of reimagining public safety. If we continue to operate under the current models of public safety, we'll continue to put Angelenos in danger when we could, in fact, be using those resources and be using that time, to ensure that the community can be safe, especially in areas like South Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, where community members are much more prone, to police violence. So we absolutely have to make sure that we do this work. Please, please, please be sure to have agenda items number 9 and 10 be reintroduced, and to have the item for.
All right. Thank you, caller.
Speaker.
Next speaker.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1048, please press star 6. Caller with the phone number ending in 1047, please press star 6. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. But Sylvester with the love we don't see.
Okay, what items do you want to speak on?
Can I speak on 10 in public comment?
Sure, you have.
Yes, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay. So the fact that this is even being brought up, lets us understand that the issue is the system of policing. I want you to understand that this isn't about a good apple or a bad apple thing. That when the system is corrupt, it's going to continue to yield the same results. When you're starting programs like this, where you're going to have people, a group of people respond to nonviolent responses, the divestment needs to come from the police. They have the biggest budget. This is all about resources. It's not. I don't want to make this thing a personal thing. It's about resources at the end of the day. And if you're going to lessen the responsibility of that police have, you're going to, decrease their role and their job duties, then obviously money should come from them if you're going to ask them to do less, and we're asking police to do less. It makes everybody safer. you know, with the police that we do have, when they'll go in the neighborhood, it'll be safer for them. It'll be safer for the, you know, members of the community.
Thank you,
So
Speaker.
I just want to make it clear, do not treat it just like a pilot, or, you know, you got to fully fund it, or don't. And approach.
Caller with the phone number ending in 1108, please press star 6. Caller with the phone number ending in 1108, please press star 6.
Yeah, hi, it's Daniel Gus. All items and general public comment, please.
Sure. So you have 3 minutes for items 17, 18, and 19, and 1 minute for general public comment, please.
So four in total then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, here we go. Council members, number 17. This sounds like a great idea. It does not say which council district is, and I would encourage the city, especially when it's a good idea, to put the council district on the agenda item. I think we should have much better clarity on which council district any item, especially these big projects, are in. Since Mr. O'Farrell had commented on this, I'm going to assume that it's CD 13. And by the way, if Mr. O'Farrell had told me about this project, I would have loved to have written a story on it so I could champion the good things that you're doing. But it doesn't have it, there's no communication, and I therefore can't write about it. Just so you know, there's no mention of the money involved. It sounds like a great idea, but I don't think that CEQA exemptions should apply to any project since we talk about the environment all the time. It also doesn't refer to any specific COVID protection for the workers who are going to be there. And one last thing, though, the phrase comprised of in number 17 is grammatically incorrect. Comprised of is grammatically incorrect. I hope that they fix that. Number 18, anything that doesn't put food in the bellies of Angelenos right now should not move forward. The only one that I see is the turkey drive, and I know Mr. Harris Dawson made a shift of the money here, but I can assure you that Martin Luther King, among all people, would want that money to go for rent for people in this district or to go for food for people in this district. We don't need holiday tree lighting, jazz, maybe toys, okay, but no Pride or MLK celebrations, because that is not as important as food in the refrigerators of these people and money for rent and utilities in the hands of the people in this district. Number 19, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is an aesthetic project for a theater that's not open. How could we be spending a dime of any money on something that doesn't keep people fed or sheltered or anything that's essential? This is a colossal waste. And if this thing moves forward, I can assure you, I'm going to write a story about that. It is wasteful to do any sort of aesthetic improvements to a theater that is closed during a pandemic, during a time when you're cutting police budgets and you don't have enough money for food or rent out there. Please don't waste a dime of this money. It is just deeply offensive that you would pursue number 19 at this time. Moving on to my general public comment. Council members, my new column in City Watch LA is called Mayor, How Does No Sound, Mike Fewer? It addresses absolute malfeasance by City Attorney Mike Fewer's office by hiding discovery in the LADWP PricewaterhouseCoopers case. You should be finding out who and how this happened and hold Mr. Fewer's budget accountable for $2.5 million. That could go for housing, that could go for groceries, that could go for utilities, for health care, for people who need it most. This is a borderline criminal act by Mike Fewer's office, and we got $0 value out of it. Grace Yu for Council District 10. That would be a great improvement. Holly Mitchell for County Supervisor over Herb Wesson. And Joe Collins is running against Maxine Waters. How about a vote for Joe Collins to replace Maxine Waters? Thank you.
Next caller.
Caller with a phone number ending in 1506, please press star 6.
Hi, I would like to speak on item number 8, although I'm realizing that 17 and 18 and 19 seem to be the items I'm able to speak on. Is that something I can address in public comment?
Sure, you can speak on anything you want in the subject matter jurisdiction of the city during general public comment. So you have a minute. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Council President and Council members. My name is Diana Coronado, and as I mentioned, I want to speak on item number 8, which was a motion you voted on related to the mansionization. I'm here on behalf of the Building Industry Association, an organization focused on building housing for all. As expressed in the Plum Committee, we understand that this motion seeks to reduce mansionization of single-family homes, and we can appreciate the concern to appropriately match existing housing stock to maintain the unique integrity of the neighborhood. However, the motion as written presents concerning language as it seeks to cap the size of single-family homes and establish new regulations for all single-family residential zone properties. Potentially banning the construction of new single-family homes is a significant overreach in trying to address the issues related to mansionization proliferation. In the midst of a pandemic, the protection of housing opportunities for all income levels and home building is more necessary today than ever before. We ask that this language be narrowed when a report to look at these items is addressed to reach the solution to the issues related to mansionization without hurting the production of single-family housing. We need to increase housing production to provide housing opportunities for all Angelenos. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, members, that concludes public comment for today's meeting. Madam Clerk, why don't we prepare to vote on items 17, 18 as amended? We can take that one separately.
Yes.
And item number 19 as well.
Okay. Council President, let's vote on 17 and 19. And
go ahead and call the roll.
Blumenfield?
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin?
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino?
Aye.
Cedillo? Harris Dawson?
Yes.
Koretz?
Aye.
Krikorian?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
O'Farrell?
Aye.
Price?
Let me know if you need anything and I'll see you.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Rue?
Aye.
No.
Madam Chair, Cedillo, aye.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Cedillo. Wesson?
Wesson, aye.
Going back to Mr. Price?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item 18 as amended.
Just for clarification, Councilmember Rue, your vote on items 17 and 19?
Aye.
Okay, that would be 14 ayes, 17 and 19 are adopted. And moving on to item 18.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you, Council President. Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Kurtz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Rue.
Aye.
Wesson.
Wesson, aye.
14 ayes, this item is adopted as amended.
Okay. Okay, members, we're going to move on to item number 10. I'm going to ask Mr. Wesson to please kick us off on item number 10, sir.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I was just informed that earlier today, that today would have been George Floyd's birthday. And it's not like this council purposely scheduled this item to be taken up on this day. I just think it's kind of fate. I remember months ago when he was killed, and we all had a conversation about that as we adjourned in his memory. Today is the day that the greatest city in this country sends a message to the United States of America, not the divided states of America, that change is on the way. Today is an opportunity for us as a city to make a giant first step in putting in place professional, unarmed response, dealing with individuals that suffer from mental health challenges, homeless individuals, individuals under the influence of some substance. If we want to send a message to Black people, if we want to let my people know, and Marquise's people know, and Curran's people know that we hear them and that we care about them, let us not forget that we are LA. We are a big city. We do big stuff. That's who we are. That's how we roll. Let us do something that I believe will have a positive effect on the rest of this nation. And I think it's our responsibility to lead the way. So today, I ask that we move forward and send a message to all people, but to Black people in particular. We hear you. We're going to respond to you. And we're going to begin to make substantive reforms that you can see, touch, and feel. Today, we don't just honor George Floyd. We honor every person that lost their life before him, and we honor all of the lives that we're gonna save after. So with that, Madam President, I believe that our actions go a long way in changing the world and providing hope for individuals of all races, all generations, all religions. So I ask for an aye vote. Let us shock the world and never forget that the winds in this country blow from the west to the east. Let's give them let's have a good gust of wind blowing east today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wesson. Mr. Harris Dawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Wesson, for being the tip of the spear on this first big step for the city of Los Angeles and providing the basis for us to do something that the rest of the country can look at. Today would have been George Floyd's birthday. This is also the day in 1964 when Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was an affirmation that the disruptions that he had been making, the way he had been challenging the system was in fact the right thing to do. And it was something that the world was recognizing. And I think what we're doing today is in keeping with that, and it has the potential to be as big as that. I appreciate also Mr. Wesson lifting up the African-American members of this council and the African-American residents of this city. One of the things about this motion that I will point out, and I think all of our colleagues know this, but I just want to say it out loud, whether it's people in Venice or Pacoima or Hollywood or the Central City, Spring Hill and Mr. Cedillo's district, Black people all over the city of Los Angeles face similar challenges as the folks who live in our district, and have been crying out for this type of change for decades and decades and decades. And so I'm very excited about what we have the potential to do. It's in the government, outside the government, it look like a small thing to say, when someone has a mental health crisis, a mental health worker should respond. But those of us who are inside government know that's a huge lift to change from the way you've been doing things for decades, the way you've always done things, to change even in a small way and in a way that makes total sense and seems totally rational. That's a big deal. And so I think it's a giant legislative step, and our props to Councilmember Wesson for being again the leader on this, but also props to all those people who hit the streets. Because a lot of people have been saying this for a long, long time, and the people who hit the streets back this past spring created the political opportunity for us to do this work. And so we look forward to the success of this program. We look forward to keeping Los Angeles in the forefront of police reform. Sometimes we do it because we get a push from our people. Sometimes we do it because we get a push from Washington or a push from a judge here and there. But Los Angeles has been in the forefront. Like we said last night in Public Safety Committee, cities from all over the world come to Los Angeles to figure out how to do gang intervention and how to do alternative responses to sort of the intractable crime problems. And I think with this program, it'll be just another thing that the world comes to Los Angeles to begin to figure out. And so, again, thank you to my colleagues who presented this motion, and thank you most of all to Councilmember Wesson for leading in this monumental step in the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Wesson. Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson. Thank you, Mr. Price, and all who signed on to this motion. I'm honored to have seconded this initiative. Today, this council is taking decisive action in creating a program that will eliminate armed responses to nonviolent service calls for people in distress. One result of this historic structural and racial inequalities in this country are nationwide policing systems where use of force practices have been put under a microscope in this time of our national reckoning. This is a recognition of the broader understanding of how policing is often viewed within the Black community. The deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the list goes on and on and on, countless others, along with the millions of Americans who have marched for racial justice across the country, have undeniably brought the issue into sharp focus. it has become more apparent that unnecessarily dispatching armed police officers to incidents that do not require their presence oftentimes escalates situations to a dangerous and unnecessary level. A response by unarmed service providers who specialize in mental health, substance abuse, suicide, and other nonviolent, very human events has the potential to revolutionize this element of what has traditionally been an armed, uniformed police response. Our city's resources can and must be better utilized to deliver safer and more appropriate responses to people in need who pose no threat to public safety. I believe this endeavor is in everyone's best interest, including our women and men of the LAPD, whose mission is to protect and to serve Los Angeles, making our neighborhoods safer and more livable. I've witnessed firsthand for decades from my friends in the force who have always felt their resources are better utilized, focusing on crime reduction and prevention. We have to remember the systems we all work within were not of our own making, but we have an opportunity and an obligation to improve upon them or change them to help build a more just, more equitable society for everyone, especially people that have been traditionally marginalized or discriminated against. As I said, I am proud to have been included in this motion and want to thank the CLA for putting together this report, researching unarmed mobile crisis response models across the country and the world, and all agencies and departments who assisted them. I also want to thank my colleagues on the Police Ad Hoc and Reform Committee who are working to make sure that the model we are developing takes into account the unique characteristics of our city. And as you said, Mr. Wesson, what we do in Los Angeles resonates across the country. Lastly, thank you to the countless community members and organizations that have spoken out about the need for unarmed models of response. You've spoken out with your feet, with your voice, and we are all better for that. This action would not be possible without everyone working together to make Los Angeles a better and safer city for all of our residents. And again, thank you, and I also urge an enthusiastic aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just proud to stand with my colleagues on this important motion as we move forward. Certainly want to just acknowledge the comments made by Councilman Wesson, Councilman Harris-Dawson, and Councilman O'Farrell, underscoring the importance of this effort in this time in history. You know, it's clear that, you know, whether it's mental health or substance abuse or suicide threats, these are people in distress, you know, and they deserve to have an unarmed response, and service providers unarmed. And I think it helps to redefine in our city what public safety is all about. This is an important time, and certainly it's not in a vacuum. You know, we've had demonstrations in the streets, we've had phone calls, we've had letters, and you know, not just recently, but over the years. And as Herb pointed out, you know, it's been impacting the Black community especially hard. And so I'm just excited that we're showing that a different kind of response is possible, that we're willing to step out of the comfort zone and really lead the way. And while this may be modeled after something that's going on in other areas, there will be nothing like Los Angeles. And we have the opportunity to really set the pace, set the tone, and create a standard that will serve the citizens and the our entire community. So again, I'm excited about this motion. Urge a unanimous aye, and just want to thank Herb and Marquise for your leadership in making this happen. Thank you.
Mr. Buscaino?
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I too want to echo the support of this motion by my colleagues. Mr. Herb, you've been on the forefront of looking at ways to better police our city, embracing reforms, and look forward to hearing back how this pilot program will evolve and the type of non-emergency calls that we'll be dispatching to. And just for the record and those who are watching and listening, this is a mere pilot program. This is a step in using alternative law enforcement models. Oftentimes, when I was patrolling the streets in Los Angeles, I too was questioning, why am I responding to a welfare check? But I also responded to suicide calls where the individuals could have easily hurt members of the family and others in the neighborhood. So again, moving forward, I'm looking forward to hearing back on how this program and this pilot program will evolve. I'm anxious to see how this will play out. So thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. And if it just can take a few minutes I really want to thank Mr. Wesson, sir, for your leadership on this issue, for helping us convene and listen to the impacted communities during our 3 Zoom town hall meetings that you were so instrumental in making sure we're organized and that we spent the time listening to impacted communities. You know, I just think that for way too long, we've really relied on law enforcement to solve our social issues, to deal with mental health, to deal with homelessness, when clearly they're not trained to do that. And so I think for decades, we've gone down this road. And to be honest with you, if we want to be honest with each other, we have failed people who really need our assistance. The majority of them happen to be Black and brown, who are struggling with mental health issues and homelessness. And to give the police department more to handle, I don't think it's fair. And if we're going to be completely honest and fair to our police officers, we also have to be fair to the communities who are suffering from the lack of resources and services that they deserve. And so I think this takes us in the right direction. But I also want to thank those same communities, the Black and brown communities, from South LA to Boyle Heights to Watts to the Northeast San Fernando Valley, for giving us their direct feedback and leading this policy. You know, colleagues, when we empower communities of color, they weigh in on the issues that impact them, and we need to continue to do that. They will tell us what they want. They will call our office, and if we engage with them in a meeting and we engage with them in a dialogue, they will lead the way in solving issues that impact them directly. You know, when I look out on the streets and I see the amount of people living on our sidewalks, 75% of our homeless population are people of color. The majority of these folks come from communities that lack basic health care, that lack mental health services, that face barriers every single day to get proper evaluation and medication. So we have a broken mental health system, and policing our way out of it is simply not working and is not going to solve the problem. So colleagues, I do look forward to receiving the report on the RFP and how we begin the pilot program on unarmed response, to be able to look at a different model and start leading the way in this complicated era. We need to make sure that we are doing it in a responsible, ethical, and compassionate way. So colleagues, thank you very much. Mr. Wesson, again, I applaud your efforts and your commitment to reimagining public safety in the city of Los Angeles. Madam Clerk?
Madam President, if I could just have one last moment.
Sure, Mr. Wesson.
I cannot believe that in my opening statement that I did not mention the support that we have received from you. That you had the courage to empower us to actually have community conversations like never before. Was not like a regular council meeting where individuals spoke for a minute or two. We actually went back and forth and I think your leadership has been so critical in moving this issue forward. And I just wanted to take a moment to let you know how appreciative I am. You know, being a Black man and having an opportunity with Mr. Harris Dawson and with Mr. Price to put something like this in place could be the greatest thing we ever have an opportunity to do. So we are just unbelievably appreciative of you allowing us to be the tip of the spear on this. And every time that I look at my grandchildren and the opportunity to maybe create a world where they don't have to go through a lot of the things that all of us, women and people of color, have had to go through, is probably just the most exciting thing that I've ever been a part of in my life. But this would not have happened if you did not empower us to move forward. So I just want to say on the record that not only am I grateful, I am so, and I'm sure Mr. Price and Mr. Harris Dawson as well are so just appreciative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weston. And let's continue to empower one another and continue to empower the communities impacted by this issue. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield proudly as a co-author, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Kuretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Rue.
Yes.
Wesson.
Wesson, aye.
14 ayes, this item is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, we're going to move on to item number 9. LAFD is going to join our Zoom link momentarily, so just give me a couple of minutes to make sure they're in our meeting, so if ITA can make sure that happens. And then we can start with questions. We can also allow Chief Terrazas to perhaps give an overview. I'm sorry, it's going to be Chief Everett who's on the Zoom call. Chief, can you hear us?
Good morning, Council President and members. Yes, I can hear you.
Is this your first Zoom council meeting?
Well, yes, ma'am. I believe it is for council. We've done some committee meetings on other platforms, but having a first in the fire department usually means I have to provide ice cream. So.
All right. Well, welcome. And so why don't you give us an overview on item number 9, and then we can go ahead and open up for questions from our members. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Again, my name is Graham Everett. I'm Deputy Chief, and I serve as the Chief of Staff of the Fire Department. Thank you for having this item on the agenda this morning. I also have Dr. Eckstein, our Medical Director, to provide some details about what the proposal would be and operationally how we believe the therapeutic bans and some of the other pilot programs that we've had success with in the past can really assist in this effort. And I think Dr. Eckstein would be best served for the operational questions that might come up. If he's available.
Yes, good afternoon, honorable council members. Just to echo some of Chief Everett's comments and the comments of some of the council members, I think we're at we have an incredible opportunity in front of us right now to explore some alternative methods of dealing with the most vulnerable members of our society, vis-a-vis those who have mental health issues, many of whom also are experiencing homelessness, and also many who have dual diagnoses in terms of mental health issues as well as substance abuse. This is a pilot program that we're enthusiastically supporting with our colleagues at the Department of Mental Health under the Department of Health Services. We are not stating this is necessarily the answer or the panacea, but clearly having law enforcement or firefighters and paramedics respond to patients with mental health crises, we know is suboptimal. And we know that transporting these individuals with behavioral crises to general emergency departments, most of whom do not have professional mental health professionals there to provide the services they need, clearly is not working. It doesn't help these vulnerable patients. It also worsens our wall time. So we are looking forward to working with the council members and our partners at DMH and the county to implement this pilot. We have a number of metrics that we'll be compiling, and we'll be very transparent. And we're optimistic that this alternative care delivery will provide a much better pathway to help some of these most vulnerable members in our society. Our primary goals are, number one, to ensure patient safety. So we've developed a medical screening checklist that we'll be providing to our DMH colleagues and training them on. We also have layers of response. So if a therapeutic van is not responsible, our dispatch center will instead send one of our mobile integrated health units, like our advanced provider response unit. We're also very optimistic that this plan will incorporate the services of D.D. Hirsch, which I'm sure most of the council members is familiar with. D.D. Hirsch is a nonprofit mental health operation that's been in existence for 75 years. They'll be the first level of this program, and many callers who basically endure suicidal ideation or other types of mental health crises who do not pose an obvious risk to other members of the public or their family. Those calls will be transferred to a DD Health mental health professional, and probably 90% of those calls will be able to be successfully mitigated without the response of any police or fire resources. Those calls that are not handled by DD Hirsch, we will then dispatch a therapeutic van or one of the LAFD mobile integrated health resources. So in summary, we're looking forward to implementing this plan. I think it's a huge step in the right direction to provide alternative delivery models. And I think it really represents a paradigm shift to help those most in need and provide the right services for this changing demand. And I'm happy to answer any questions any of the honorable council members might have.
All right, Chief Everett, do you have anything else to add before we start taking questions?
Council President, no, not at this time. If there's any questions that we can field at this time, it'd be great.
I have a few questions. So it is my understanding that the county expects us to subsidize the cost of the program that they've asked us to participate in. Is that correct?
That's what the early discussions have been, but we haven't really been involved in the financial backing of the program. I think there's going to be a lot more robust discussions on that topic.
Well, the reason I ask is, I mean, for me, and I know the council has struggled with this piece, how much longer are we expected to subsidize these types of funding? We're currently in the middle of a lawsuit where it's taking us months to get the county to agree to take ownership on services. So now we're being asked to do it again? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, we're in court, literally fighting over how we're going to get more resources and services to the city, because I feel personally that we've been subsidizing a lot of that work. So we're in the middle of that fight, and now we're being asked to fund or subsidize a pilot program regarding services again. So I think we need to just make sure we understand what we're getting ourselves into, and I think the financial question is an important one given our financial situation.
Yes, ma'am, I agree with you.
Members,
Yeah,
Mr. Buscaino?
Yeah, thank you. And just piggyback, Madam President, you're absolutely right. You know, we're seeing this, and we talked about this in Ms. Rodriguez's committee just yesterday in the long public safety committee meeting, that you know, the city of Los Angeles, we're not responsible for providing and funding these types of programs. LA County is through, of course, state dollars filtered in by the federal dollars, period. So at the same time, we're really concerned about, you know, taking a hit on our general fund dollars in a time where these are unprecedented times. Our Circuit Court can attest to this, tough budgetary times. And I moving forward on any public safety, whether it's police or fire, we have to be cautious on how we're spending these dollars, because at the end of the day, when people call 911, they want their police and fire to show up in a timely manner. So I appreciate you raising these concerns, Madam President. I'm with you, and I agree.
Then Mr. Buscaino, thank you. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Buscaino, and thank you, Chief and Mr. Ecclestine. Yeah, similarly, we heard a motion last week in Homelessness and Poverty Committee. There are several signatories of this initiative to really take a look at the contractual arrangement we have with the county because of the woefully inadequate services. By contractual agreement, the county is obligated to provide the most vulnerable of all of our homeless population, folks who are really on the ropes and barely hanging on and surviving on our sidewalks and streets. One of whom I spoke about, who was rushed into the hospital over the weekend near death, and how for years, if not decades, really the county health response to people experiencing homelessness who are just completely unable to seek help themselves are getting no help whatsoever, even though contractually the county is obligated to deal with those issues. So I think we need to wade into the financial obligation waters for this program very, very carefully and very clear-eyed as well. Clearly the status quo isn't working. Many of us have been talking about that for a long, long time. And before we agree to supplement additional funding to the county for services that they are contractually obligated to already supposedly responsible for providing, is something that we need to really carefully consider. And we need to do all of this with a great sense of urgency, because I think these mobile van responses are going to be very critical to help the folks who need it the most. But we definitely have some understandings to come to with the county in terms of the responsibilities. So yes, let's proceed with eyes wide open, notwithstanding where we are, as the council president mentioned, in the courts, and then sorting out the responsibilities from a contractual obligation that has existed for 56 years when the city was a very, very different place. And our profile in homelessness was nothing compared to what it is now, but yet we have those same agreements in place all these decades later, and it just isn't working. So I just wanted to add my voice to the chorus. It's going to be a difficult challenge, but one worth engaging in. But we have to make sure that we are being financially and responsible every step of the way for the residents that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chief, and thank you, Dr. Eckstein. These are models that we know that our city desperately needs. You have been at the forefront of launching alternative models, alternative response models that have proven very, very successful. And we want to continue to expand on that so that we don't continue to put members in a situation to respond to issues that frankly should be provided by mental health professionals. That said, we find ourselves here in a city that continues to be part of a pattern that subsidizes and provides the very work that the county should in fact be doing. I've been a broken record on this for a long time, and everyone knows this. I've had, several motions, and I want to thank Mr. Krikorian, who's been a resounding, amplified part of the chorus on how we need to take a step back from doing the county's work. And this is not just one example. This is one of several examples where we continue to do that. But it's going to be incumbent upon this council to put a halt to our funding those efforts without getting the share of the county resources that are being deployed in other parts of the county. We are the largest city within the county territory, and yet we're disproportionately getting far less than what we should be getting. That said, I really do believe that it's, and I've said this before, in, I think, consultation with our city attorney to identify alternatives to assure that we're getting our fair share, because we are being failed. Our residents, our taxpayers are being failed by the fact that we are not able to secure the resources from the county for mental health and for all the other variety of services from the public health department and everything that should be administering, frankly, COVID-19 tests. We have a multitude of examples that, obviously none of which as more amplified by what we're experiencing with respect to homelessness. So, colleagues, I just want to, again, this has been part of my broken record on this issue because it's been infuriating, and it's frankly the taxing of our own staff, of our own city resources has been what's been most egregious with all of this. And I feel like we got to get off this hamster wheel because we know we continue to need it, and our constituents and our city family continues to provide it in its absence. But it really is a disservice to the tax-paying members of our city who want us to take this $10 billion organization that we are and have the most highest efficient deployment of those resources to meet all of the needs in the city. So I look forward to this coming back with hopefully far greater financial resources that we are due to help deploy this alternative model, because clearly it's needed. And, I look forward to it. But, I want to thank the men and women of this Los Angeles Fire Department and the members of the police department. We are not new to alternative models of deployment strategies to help address what we can't always accommodate with respect to just expanding our force. So I just want to thank you guys for your innovation and leadership to help identify these opportunities and to really execute it well so that we can have something to be proud of. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Madam President, and thanks to all the authors of the motion, and thanks to the fire department for the work on it. There's a number of reasons that we have a broken system where we rely on sworn personnel, whether it's LAPD or LAFD, to do all sorts of things they shouldn't be doing. One of the main reasons on that is that through generations of budget cuts that always tend to impact the most vulnerable, and through poor relations between the city and the county historically, and they're a hell of a lot better now than they were even a decade ago, the alternative responses just weren't there. And the only agencies that are available 24/7 are LAFD and LAPD. And that's where most of our resources go. So historically, when nothing was available, LAPD or LAFD got called. And, there are times when the county and the city do a great job together. A few years ago, when Charlie Beck was still head of LAPD, I talked to the county and they said, we'll give you all the resources you need to increase mental evaluation units. And the chief said, I will assign officers to as many units as the county will deploy. And so the county gave us more. We could use a hell of a lot more, but it was a model where both agencies were working together. We're now looking at doing things even better than that, where we're not looking for these paired services. We're looking for something that can actually replace and do the work. And having seen the dynamic between the city and the county over a couple different generations, even when it's good, anytime two levels of government are working together, it's difficult and it's problematic. When Metro and LAX work together, even that's a challenge. When the city and Metro work together, that's a challenge. It is always a challenge. And if we're ever going to make good on the promises and the commitments we're making to reimagine public safety, whether it's use of police resources or fire resources, I'm really of the belief that we're going to have to bring a lot of the responsibilities that are now county into the city. I don't think it's going to be, well, they need to pay for it, they need to pay for it. They do currently, but I don't think that's a good model. And one of the things I liked about Mr. O'Farrell's motion last week is one of the things we'll be looking at are different models. Is there a way we can have our own public health, our own mental health department, and then have those federal and state monies come to us so we can manage it? Because if we're going to start taking a system where we ask one department to step away with the expectation that something else is going to step in, if we don't have the ability to control and determine how that other agency steps in and allocate the resources for it, it's never going to happen. So I think that's where we're going, whether it needs to be done through legislation or a ballot question in 2022, I don't know, but that's probably where we do need to go. I would also say that there's another example of something the county does right that we can do ourselves. The county, several years ago, decided to take some of their healthcare funds and use it to directly house people who were frequent users, the high flyers, the frequent users of the county emergency rooms and the trauma centers, the Housing for Health program. Phenomenally successful. It actually saved money and it housed people. 4 or 5 years ago, back when Miguel was still here, I had actually proposed that we start doing the same thing. Work with the county to buy into that program so that anytime one of our fire stations identifies somebody as a frequent user of ambulance service or a frequent user of emergency service, they become a portal or a gateway into that program. And that's the kind of thing we can be doing with perhaps some of our CARES money or some of the other money that hopefully we'll get from a new administration next year, because it can address the other half of this coin. This is about the mental health, but it can help us house people a lot more quickly too. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. Mr. Rue?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for bringing your concerns, sharing that with us, and as well as all of my colleagues sharing the same concerns that I had. I first did want to start with really applauding the selection of Dee Dee Hirsch. Having personally worked with Dee Dee Hirsch in the past, and their executive director now, their CEO, Keita Curry, who is unfortunately retiring. But Dee Dee Hirsch is a great organization. Not only do they provide mental health services and everything that they're doing, but they're also the nation's leading, and they are the suicide prevention hotline, not just for LA and California, but for the entire Western states and the nation as well. So Dee Dee Hirsch is a great organization. However, as eloquently stated by you, Madam President, and Councilmember Bonin, Councilmember O'Farrell, Councilmember Rodriguez, I too am concerned about, yet again, we are subsidizing a lot of these programs when in reality it is the county's responsibility. And, it is concerning. I hope, and I like the fact that we're going to be looking more into this, because where's this money going to come from? Is it going to come from the fire department, where the fire department is already stretched so thin during these fire seasons, where I think everybody agrees this is absolutely critical and absolutely necessary when we talk about transforming public safety overall. But we got to make sure that we figure out where these monies come from. And, and I know this is part of what we just passed today, the unarmed crisis response by Councilmember Wesson and many of our colleagues, what Councilmember Mitchell Farrell introduced and I seconded, I believe last week or the week before, where we're reevaluating our entire mental health service delivery model with the county. And that's allusion with what Councilmember Bonin says about, and we talked about this before, should the city open up a hospital or a public health department, right? Or a health department, or now mental health department. And this is what myself, along with several of our colleagues, introduced the Office of Violence Prevention. These are all the conversations we're having today. But if we can't get the necessary services that the county is supposed to provide for us with the tax revenue that they receive, I'm in complete favor of what Councilmember Bonin just said. Maybe we should seriously consider, instead of just keep on asking for mental health workers or outreach workers, we have our own division or our own department. Now, it's much easier said than done, but and we have to figure out how we get our allotment of those resources. But these are all great programs. This is what we're talking about when we talk about transforming how public safety is done in an alternative and more efficient way with appropriate personnel and services. So this is a great discussion. I think none of us has any concerns that this is a necessary program. But again, it's always, robbing from Peter to give to Paul. And we're always stuck with these decisions where it's necessary, but we get no help. So I thank you for this, having this great dialogue. This is a great program, but going forward, we really have to start evaluating this and everything else on how we approach public safety and everything else. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Rue. Mr. Harris-Dawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, and thank you to the members of the Fire Department who presented on this. I just wanted to add to the comments that all of the members have made. I want to associate myself with their comments, but also just make a note and remind the public that every time we go to the polls and vote, we're voting on these questions, maybe not specifically, but in general. So on the ballot that everybody has at their house now, there are things that increase revenues to counties and cities, and there are things that decrease revenues to counties and cities. And we, you can push and pull and fight, and we can get mad at them and they can get mad at us. The point is, if the pie is shrinking for everybody, it's going to show up somewhere. If the pie is expanding for everybody, we all have the opportunity to do better than we're doing. And so I just wanted to make sure that this conversation was framed in the context of the ballot that is, sitting on everyone's coffee table right now, waiting for it to be filled out.
Thank you, Mr. Harris-Dawson. Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you very much, Madam President. And thank you, Mr. Harris-Dawson, for that very important point, because Mr. Rue just mentioned that we're sometimes robbing Peter to pay Paul. I can tell you as budget chair, I don't feel like anybody's ever paying Paul. But you're certainly right that the situation has been that because of decisions made by the legislature, the state legislature, and other elected bodies, and the taxpayers through initiatives and propositions, we have significantly reduced the resources that are available for services for people in need as a society for the last 2 generations. And whether you want to start with Prop 13 and move forward or not, this has been a progression of a societal challenge. And the result has been that local fire departments and local police departments have become the local departments of fix everybody's problems. And they are not. They were never intended to be. They should not be. So when people come to the city council and in angry voices, they demand that the police department and fire department resources and other city resources should be diverted to paying for every problem that has trickled down from the reduction in state and federal funding. In some respects, that is a cost-efficient and sensible step to take. But we have to take a step back from that and say, until the problem is fixed at the much higher level, we are always going to be chasing around the scraps on the table. And the truth is that the state legislature defunded state mental health facilities decades ago with the promise that there was going to be additional funding for community-based mental health. And that did not happen. The people responded by voting for a measure that was authored by Assemblymember Steinberg, Prop 63, which was put on the ballot to tax the wealthiest Californians in order to fund exactly the kind of services we're talking about, community-based mental health services. And for reasons that I still cannot fathom, that fund has continued to accrue and build, and the revenues that are derived from that tax have continued to increase. And so Mr. Bonin had mentioned budget cuts. There certainly have been budget cuts in a lot of areas, but none of them, at least none of them that we're talking about at the city, have impacted this. In fact, quite to the contrary. The state continues to have an increase in revenues that are not being spent on the mental health services that would solve these problems at the local level, take police and fire services out of this equation, provide people with the kind of life-saving mental health care that they need in community-based facilities. Now, there's one level of government that is not at all responsible for that, and that is the city of Los Angeles. There is one level of government that doesn't get one penny of those billions of dollars of tax revenues that have been derived over the years, and that is the city of Los Angeles. And people need to understand that. This is not a city function. It is a county and state function, and they need to get off their rear ends and start saving people's lives by spending that money.
Hear, hear.
People dedicated to exactly this purpose. So I can't say in strong enough terms that the money is there, it needs to be spent, it isn't being spent, and the result of it is we have tens of thousands of people living on the streets, suffering with mental illness that is so debilitating to them that they can't even find the health care that they need in order to save their lives. And not only are we not getting the funding for it, but we are literally prevented by state law from being able to lift these people up and bring them into care that will help them to save their lives. It is a devastatingly broken system from the top down, from the federal government, state government on down. And so so all that being said, I think that it's important that we move forward with this program because, as is so often the case, the fire department is left holding the bag for the broken social compact that's been broken on so many other levels. And I do think we need to move forward with this. But let's be clear. If we're going to take on additional responsibilities like this, we need to demand that we take on the additional resources for this as well, so that we can continue to function, even function as a city in a situation where we're facing potentially hundreds of millions of dollars of shortfall this year. If we want to take on these sorts of services, then we damn well better receive the resources that are necessary in order to pay for them and do them effectively.
Here, Mr. Krikorian. Thank you for that. Mr. Cedillo?
Madam Chair, come right back to me. Just give me 1 second, please.
Sure. Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I love hearing all of this from all of you. I totally agree with 100% that we as a city need to be focusing on our core services, you know, what we provide as a city. But I also remember, you know, to some of your statements that, you know, people are hurting right now. And we as a state government, they need to do a better job with their housekeeping and reprioritizing what's important so that we do what we get, what was promised us, like that Councilman Krikorian was talking about that community-based mental health funding that I agree with him 100%. If we're going to be taking on this burden, then we should be receiving more funding in that. But that takes reprioritizing at the state level. And what I think that we need to be doing, if we truly are talking about this homelessness crisis being the crisis of our generation, then the state needs to be doing a better job. I think that us in the city, we are going to be facing, as Councilman Krikorian, there's nobody I trust more when it comes to talking about the budget and the shortfalls that we're going to be facing. But I think we also, before we constantly go out to taxpayers we also need to take a look at our responsibility and what we are doing here in the city and make sure that we are truly focusing moving forward on what our core services are as a city. So we're not taking on county stuff and we're not taking on other burdens that we're not supposed to be focusing on, that we're focusing on the things that we promise that, you know, the people who put us in these seats, that we would deliver to them. And, you know, I look forward to those what are going to be very tough discussions, you know, moving forward, especially this coming year. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo.
Let me thank everyone for their leadership. Let me add myself to this chorus in terms of how we get the appropriate alignment between government entities and the challenges that confront us. Let me say first that the question of why we do this is because it's a challenge of leadership. And so all that we've done in the city and all of us on the council who have gone forward to embrace these various challenges is because it's the right thing to do. I had the same conversation with my staff yesterday. We have a similar challenge over at 7th and Alvarado about how we handle support for all our street vendors and who pays. And so the question was, well, if we don't do it, people are going to come and respond anyway. And so someone has to pay, someone has to do it. And so I want to applaud all my colleagues for their leadership. The question we're talking about is the question of governance. And I raise this because I was listening to Councilmember Harris Dawson earlier and Councilmember Wesson about the role that the public plays in this. And we have heard for, I don't know, the last year or so, particularly all through this COVID crisis, people coming to us asking us to do other things that are not our jobs. We are not the Los Angeles Unified School District. We are not the mental health department of the County of Los Angeles. We are not the health department of the County of Los Angeles. And yet people come to us and make demands upon us, which in many respects don't make any sense because it's not what we do. And so we try to craft some resolution. We try to fit circles into squares or squares into circles. But it, at the end of the day, comes to a question about who pays. And we have a certain jurisdiction, a certain authority, and a certain budget. And we have to do everything that we can within that budget to construct the best public policy. But the fact of the matter is, and I've had this conversation with one of the supervisors, they have a legal obligation. And this was part of our conversation with the Judge Carter. The county has a legal obligation to provide these services, 5150. And so, and we know, as Mr. Krikorian reminded us, and I remember while I supported Darrell Steinberg, I always have some pause and hesitation to budget through the ballot and restrict funds because it removes the discretion for which we are elected to exercise our leadership and our discretion with the challenges that confront us at those times. And so this question of governance is really a question of resources. And so while we are moving forward, we should move forward with trepidation on this, but we should be very clear and we should ask those advocates, those who marched, those who engage us every city council meeting, to focus those resources where they can be most effective. And where they can be most effective is where the resources are and where the legal obligations are to meet this challenge. And that's at the County of Los Angeles. So while I welcome their comments and their criticisms, let me suggest that they would be most effective if they also directed those comments, those marches, those protests, the whole range of those activities at the County of Los Angeles, at the supervisors, at the Department of Mental Health, at the Health Department. That's where the resources are, that's where the legal obligation is, and that's where the moral obligation is. It's held by all of us but frankly, the legal and structural obligation for this challenge belongs and is with the County of Los Angeles. I'm happy to partner with them. I'm happy to work with them. I'm proud of being a part of this council because we embrace each and every challenge. But frankly, we are not the county supervisors. I hope Mr. Wesson becomes a county supervisor, and I hope he does not forget what it was to be on the city council and can be maybe a voice or representative of local government on that council. But frankly, it is the county's obligation, and we need to remind them of the appropriate relationship. But mostly I call upon the activists, the organizers, the marchers, the mobilizers to focus their attention and energy where they could be most effective and more effective, and that's at the County of Los Angeles. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your time and patience.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, colleagues, for your leadership on this issue. I mostly want to echo the comments of Mr. Corian and Mr. Cedillo. I know for decades, what we've said is, well, we had a mental health system and it was destroyed by Ronald Reagan. Well, it's been over 45 years since Ronald Reagan has been out of office. He's long dead as well. And yet we almost act as if there's nothing we can do about it because he dismantled the system. Well, we've had a number of governors since, both Democrat and Republican, and they haven't created the local programming that was promised, nor returned to the inadequate system that we had at the state level. We really have close to nothing in terms of a mental health program. So I think, number one, we need to make more of a concerted effort, which I don't know if we've ever really done as a council, to really come at the state and say what we did 50 years ago, dismantling the mental health system and using much of that money to go towards the state general fund is not the way to go. We actually need the state to take responsibility for the responsibility that it has for the mental health of our citizens. And we do have some money that we created through Prop 63. So it's not impossible for the state to do. Even now in the difficult fiscal circumstances that we find ourselves. And I think the same is true for the county. What funding we do have comes through the county level is not our responsibility, but our residents are never going to see that. So we do need to push harder on the county to get our fair share. I think looking at whether we need to create our own county, replicate the county health systems at the city so we actually get the funding and can utilize it is a logical step to look at. Clearly, just the situation that we're in, where other entities have the responsibility and the funding and don't provide it to us to solve our problems, is clearly not the way to go. So I echo the comments of my colleagues and hope that we change our strategy in the longer term. In the short term, D.D. Hirsch is a great program. I'm glad they're headquartered in my district. I've been supportive of them for many years, and a great organization to start with in this pilot program.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Chief Everett, if you're still on the line, have you transmitted a report to council yet?
Madam President, I'm on the line. No, we have not transmitted a report at this time.
Okay, so I just suggest you do that as soon as possible so that we can really review the information in order to make an informed decision moving forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk, at this time, let's go ahead and prepare to vote on this item. Please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Harris Dawson. Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Yes.
O'Farrell,
Aye.
Price,
Aye.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Rue,
Aye.
Wesson,
Wesson, aye.
back to Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Yes.
14 ayes, this item is adopted.
Thank you, Chief Everett and Dr. Eckstein, for being part of our meeting today. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, where are we now on the agenda? Can we move on to verbal motions?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay, how many do you have?
There are 4.
Okay, why don't you start with the first one?
The first is a motion introduced by Councilmember Koretz, referred to council relative to funding for tree watering efforts at the Westwood Recreation Center, coordinated by the Office of Community Beautification, with services to be provided by the Koreatown Youth and Community Center. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris Dawson. Next.
Next is a motion introduced by Councilmember Rue, also referred to council, relative to funding for construction of speed humps on 8th Street from Ridgely Drive to Hauser Boulevard. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cedillo. Next.
The next motion has been introduced by Councilmember Lee and is to be referred to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. It is to instruct the Planning Department, with the assistance of the Department of Building and Safety and in consultation with the City Attorney, to enter into a supplemental fee agreement with T-Mobile to expedite review of nearly 500 network upgrade applications and modify existing infrastructure. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cedillo. Next.
The final verbal motion was introduced by Councilmember Koretz to be referred to the Budget and Finance and the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committees. It is to amend the hiring unfreeze process with various recommendations to further streamline the process. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lee. Is that the last verbal motion you have, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Madam
Okay,
President.
I'm going to move on to the members now. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a resolution for a retired commander of LAPD, a dear friend too, Commander Beverly Lewis. Sorry to see her go, but she was an amazing LAPD officer and commander. I had the privilege to work under her command. So with that, let it be resolved that by the adoption of this resolution, the LA City Council does hereby congratulate Commander Beverly Lewis for her 29 years of loyal and dedicated service to the Los Angeles Police Department, and commends her for her unfailing commitment to duty and professionalism serving the people of the city of Los Angeles, and wishes her a long, happy, and rewarding retirement. And my second and final motion, I believe Mr. Lee is going to second this. I move that the council action of March 17, 2020, CF number 20-014, as amended by motion 72-P and motion 72-P-A, relative to suspending comprehensive Care Plus cleanups, be rescinded, and that the council authorize the Bureau of Sanitation to resume Care Plus cleanups citywide. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Hold on for just a
second on your first item. If not, I'll be happy to second it.
Hold on for just a second. The first one was a resolution and is commendatory, so we're all going to go on the first one. The second one, I just need confirmation from Mr. Lee that you're a second on Mr. Buscaino's second verbal motion.
Confirm.
Thank you. Is that you have, Mr. Buscaino?
Yes, ma'am. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rue.
I have a motion where I move that $8,409 from AB 1290 fund number 53P, account number 281204, CD4 redevelopment project services, be transferred appropriated to the Water and Power Fund number 705-98, account number 0000, revenue source 5166, for work related to the 2173.5 North Bronson Avenue traffic island. I further move that the Department of Water and Power be authorized to make any technical corrections for clarification as necessary to the above instructions in order to effectuate the intent of this motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blumenfield. Any others, Mr. Rue? All right, thank you.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Buscaino and I are co-introducing a resolution, and it will be seconded by Mr. Price. It is a recirculation of the HEROES Act going through Congress, updated and ready to go through in hopes of an adoption to give relief for state and local governments who are suffering from severe revenue shortfalls, as well as safeguarding payrolls, keeping renters housed, and helping small business owners stay solvent, amongst many other benefits and bailouts. Now, therefore, be it resolved with the concurrence of the mayor that by the adoption of this resolution, the City of Los Angeles hereby includes in its 2019-2020 federal legislative program support for HR 8406, LAUI, also known as the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, which would provide $2.2 trillion in assistance for local and state governments, provide hazard pay for frontline health workers, and increase funding for COVID-19 testing, tracing, and isolation efforts.
So, Mr. Buscaino, can I get
yes,
verbal?
confirmed.
Okay, so you're co-introducing it with Mr. O'Farrell. And Mr. Price, can I get a confirmation that you're going to second this? Thank you.
Confirmation on the second, yes.
Thank you. Mr. O'Farrell, any others?
That is it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Blumenfield?
Thank you. I have a motion and a resolution. I'll start with the motion, and it deals with the fact that some companies are starting to deploy delivery robots, also known as automated personal delivery devices, or PDDs. And basically it just says, I therefore move that the Department of Transportation and the Bureau of Street Services, with the assistance of the city attorney, be instructed to develop a regulatory framework for personal delivery devices that operate in the city's public right-of-way. And Mr. Bonin has agreed to second this.
And I will confirm I have seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Next one, Mr. Blumenfield.
The next is a resolution, and its moving clause is, be it resolved with the concurrence of the mayor, the City of Los Angeles hereby includes in the legislative program support for Proposition 19, which is the Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled Families, and Victims of Wildfire and Natural Disasters Act on the November 3rd, 2020 ballot, which would limit property taxes under specific circumstances for seniors, disabled families, homeowners who've lost their homes to natural disasters. And Mr. O'Farrell has agreed to second that.
I confirm.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a resolution that is being co-presented by myself and yourself, Council President Martinez. And the moving clause is, now therefore be it resolved that the month of October be declared Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Los Angeles.
And I confirm that I'm co-presenting that with Mr. Koretz. Can we get a second?
Second.
Mr. Blumenfield, thank you. Any others, Mr. Koretz?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other members, I have a verbal motion that I would like to introduce.
Oh, Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Wesson?
Yes, and I would hope that I could get a second on this from Mr. Harris Dawson and Mr. Price. It relates, guys, to the post and beam. So it reads, now therefore be it resolved, but by this adoption of this resolution, the Council of the City of Los Angeles hereby recognize Post and Beam for being the first Black-owned restaurant to receive the Los Angeles Times Gold Award, providing nourishment, to the body and soul of its community and the residents of the city of Los Angeles.
Only if
Happy to second that, Mr. Wesson.
Okay,
Same.
Mr. Harris Dawson and Mr. Price have seconded this motion.
Does that come with food? Some good food.
Everybody jump on.
Okay, any others, Mr. Wesson?
No, I'm good. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read a verbal motion. I've moved pursuant to Charter 242B that the council resolve to transfer to the jurisdiction of the Planning Land Use Committee the Cannabis Department and all matters relating to cannabis. And this is seconded by Mr. Harris Dawson. If I can get a confirmation.
Confirmation.
Thank you. That's all I have. Members of their, Madam Clerk, what's next?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred. Members, are there any announcements? Okay, seeing none, any adjourning motions? Okay, seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Oh, well, Mr. Koretz, is that an adjourning motion or an announcement?
Yes, it's an adjourning motion.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. There have been a uniquely large number of significant losses to the Los Angeles Dodgers in a week-long period, and several other incredibly notable losses in baseball. So I thought I would do them all at once. Mr. Cedillo mentioned Sweet Lou Johnson, and that was well said, so I will not repeat that one. In the same week, we lost a legendary Dodger pitcher, Ron Peronowski, who helped the Dodgers win 2 World Series. He made appearances in the 1965 World Series victories, including the one where Sweet Lou Johnson hit the game winner in Game 7. In 1963, he had a 16-3 record, which for a relief pitcher is quite amazing. I'm not sure if any other relief pitcher has ever done more. After his career was over, he was the Dodger pitching coach from 1981 to 1994, nurturing such legendary Dodger pitchers as Fernando Valenzuela and Orel Hershiser. And thirdly, we lost Jay Johnstone, who was a Dodger player for a number of years and also on the Angels as part of a 20-year career. He died recently of COVID-19, and he played in the 1981 World Series for the Dodgers and 1978 World Series with the Yankees. But he was best known for being the best prankster in baseball. He especially loved playing pranks on Dodger manager Tommy Lasorda, my favorite of which is when he replaced Lasorda's gallery of photos that he had in his office with famous celebrities and elected officials with pictures of himself and a couple of his fellow players. He also once came out to play in a Lasorda numbered uniform with a pillow in his gut as a play on Lasorda's gut that he himself had. There are a number of other amazing things that he did, but he was a great prankster and very notable. There were also some remarkable players from other teams that died recently. St. Louis Cardinal pitcher Bob Gibson, who had a 17-year career with 251 wins, over 3,000 strikeouts. He was a 9-time All-Star, a 2-time Cy Young winner, and won the MVP in 1968, and was best known for his fiercely competitive nature and intimidating opposing batters. Also, New York Yankee pitcher Whitey Ford, who died at age 91. In his 16-year career, he was a 10-time All-Star, a 6-time World Series champion, and an 11-time pennant winner with the 236 wins, the all-time for the Yankees, and the winner of more World Series games than any other pitcher ever. And Joe Morgan, who died at age 77, one of the greatest second basemen of all time, another Hall of Famer with a 20-year career, most notable for having won 2 World Series championships in 1975 and 76 with the Reds. And he was also named MVP in both those years as a 10-time All-Star. So if we could recognize and adjourn in the memory of some incredible players and some incredible baseball history in Los Angeles and beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Any other adjourning motions, members? Okay, seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.